Today's Q&A is about infant formula, and the question is, are all infant formulas kosher? So, infant formulas provide nutrition for babies, and they usually contain four components. One is protein, that is usually milk, but it could be soy or rice also. The second component is fat, usually from vegetable oil. The third component is carbohydrates, which is often lactose, but could also be from corn syrup or something else. And the last is a mix of vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and things like that. Now, all of those components, in the way they're used, are potentially kosher sensitive, and therefore, infant formula needs hashgacha. Now, here in the United States, we are blessed that just about every variety of infant formula that you can find in a store has a reputable hashgacha to it. So it means you have lots of different choices, depending on whatever you want to feed your child. You have lots of choices to find kosher certified infant formulas. But that luxury that we have is not true in many other parts of the world, and people there have to rely on less reliable ways of determining that their formulas are kosher, not as good as having certification. Now, even in the United States, there is a class of formulas that are not certified. They're made by companies who have certification for all the other formulas they make, but not for these group. And these are certain hypoallergenic milk-based formulas. The more famous ones are Nutramigen and Alimentum, and these are milk-based formulas which are pre-digested so that babies who have certain sensitivities can absorb them, can use them. And the reason why they're not certified kosher is because the pre-digestion, that they're pre-digested, is done through an enzyme that is not kosher. All the other ingredients in the formula are kosher. They're the same ones that are used for the rest of the forms that these companies make. So from a halachic perspective, the non-kosher enzyme is batal, and the formula can be used, but since it does include this non-kosher component, the hashgachas won't write on it that it's certified, because in fact it does have something non-kosher in it. But from a halachic perspective, it can be used by a baby who needs it. Now, there are some babies who can't use regular formulas, and they can't even use one of these pre-digested ones that I just mentioned a second ago. So they have to use specialized formulas that come from other countries that have no hashgacha on them. So if a parent has that kind of situation, they should speak to the rabbi. And in many cases, he'll tell them that due to the circumstances, the child should use the formula just because it's so important. The child obviously needs to eat. And if this is the only thing the child can eat, in many cases, the rabbi will tell them they should do that. And they should, in fact, consult with the rabbi just to, speak through these details to get a formal ruling for their case. Now, there are the two main types of infant formulas are ones that are milk-based and ones which are soy-based. Those are the two main groups. Now, the milk-based ones are obviously dairy, and as a rule, they're not going to be chalav Yisrael. Now, there are families who themselves only eat chalav Yisrael products, but they would use the formula anyhow, assuming that the child, under the assumption that the child doesn't have to avoid chalav stam. Others will say no, they want their child to have chalav Yisrael, so they go to the effort and expense of get variations of these formulas that are specially made to be chalav Yisrael, which is wonderful if that's suitable for them. Now, soy-based formulas typically have no dairy in them. That's part of their appeal that they're good for infants who cannot have dairy. So, sometimes they're made in ways that make them completely parv, which is great. And other times they share equipment with the formulas that are made with milk, and therefore they would be labeled as DE, meaning they're made on dairy equipment, or just with a plain D also, even though they actually have no dairy ingredients in them. Now, using infant formula on Pesach is a little more complicated than everything I said until now, and that's because just about every single formula has kitnius in it. So it can't be certified as kosher Pesach because it has kitnius. Well, that's not kosher Pesach. At the same time, infants are allowed to eat kitnius, but they can't eat chametz. So how is the consumer going to be able to figure out whether the formula in front of them has chametz in them? They know it has kitnius, that doesn't make a difference. But how are they supposed to figure out if it has chametz in it? So for many years, the OU, which is the one who certifies these formulas year-round, investigates each of these formulas, lots of the formulas that they give hashgacha to, and give out a list for the public of all the ones that you're allowed to use that do not have any chametz in them. They do have kitnius, so they should not, they should be kept away from their Pesach food and the Pesach dishes. But otherwise, they're perfectly suited for babies to use on Pesach.